As the years go by, one of the most silent yet destructive processes inside the human body is inflammation. For many seniors past the age of 60, inflammation becomes a hidden companion. You don't always see it, but you certainly feel its effects. The stiffness in your joints when you wake up in the morning, the unexplained swelling in your hands or feet, the fatigue that lingers even after a full night's sleep, these are not just signs of aging. They are the body's way of whispering that inflammation is at work. And here's the surprising truth: much of this inflammation doesn't come from outside injuries or infections, it's triggered quietly by the foods you eat every single day. We often think of food as medicine. And in many ways, it is. But after the age of 60, the body becomes far more sensitive to what enters the system. Foods that once felt harmless can now stir up low-grade inflammation that slowly damages joints, arteries, and even the brain. Doctors now call this inflammaging, a combination of aging and chronic inflammation that accelerates health decline. While everyone knows sugar and processed junk food are unhealthy, the real danger comes from hidden foods, items that are marketed as healthy or considered normal in everyday diets but secretly fuel inflammation. Seniors are especially vulnerable because their bodies process fats, sugars, and chemicals differently than before. In today's video, we'll uncover 6 hidden foods that trigger dangerous inflammation in seniors. These aren't the obvious culprits. They're the everyday choices that sneak into your meals and quietly add fuel to the fire of aging. By the end, you'll know exactly which foods to watch out for, why they are harmful after 60, and how to replace them with safer, healing alternatives. Small Blue Diamond: Understanding Inflammation in Seniors. Before we dive into the foods, let's take a closer look at why inflammation is so dangerous after 60. Inflammation itself is not always bad. In fact, it's the body's natural defense mechanism. When you get a cut, sprain an ankle, or fight off a cold, inflammation rushes in to protect and heal. It's short-term, and once the job is done, it fades away. But in seniors, what we often see is chronic inflammation, a low-grade, ongoing reaction where the body keeps releasing inflammatory chemicals even when there's no immediate injury. This type of inflammation doesn't heal. Instead, it damages. It silently wears down tissues and organs, contributing to arthritis and joint stiffness, heart disease and clogged arteries, type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, memory loss and Alzheimer's disease, digestive problems and gut imbalance. And the biggest fuel source for this hidden fire? Food. The reason seniors are more vulnerable comes down to 3 big changes in the body. 1. Slower metabolism. The body can't burn off excess calories or sugars as efficiently, so harmful compounds linger longer. 2. Weaker digestion. The stomach produces less acid and enzymes, making it harder to break down complex foods. Undigested particles often trigger inflammation. 3. Increased sensitivity. Organs like the liver, kidneys, and pancreas are no longer as strong, so even small amounts of unhealthy compounds strain the system. That's why after 60, the wrong foods don't just cause bloating or mild discomfort, they set off chain reactions that worsen chronic conditions. Hidden food number 1, processed meats. Let's begin with the first hidden culprit: processed meats like sausages, hot dogs, bacon, salami, and deli slices. For decades, these foods have been staples in quick breakfasts and sandwiches. Many seniors grew up eating them, and the habit continues into later years. But here's the truth: processed meats are some of the most inflammatory foods you can eat, especially past 60. Why? Because they are loaded with saturated fats. These fats raise bad cholesterol and fuel artery inflammation. Advanced glycation end products, AGEs formed when meat is processed or cooked at high temperatures. AGEs damage cells and trigger chronic inflammation. Nitrates and preservatives, chemicals used to preserve meat transform into nitrosamines in the body, which are linked to cancer and vascular inflammation. Excess salt. Almost every processed meat is heavily salted, and sodium overload directly worsens blood pressure, putting added stress on the heart. For seniors, the combination of these factors is especially dangerous. A slice of bacon at May 30th only mean extra calories. But at 65, it can mean inflamed arteries, stiffer joints, and higher risk of stroke. Better alternative, replace processed meats with lean, freshly cooked protein sources. Think skinless chicken breast, fish like salmon or sardines, rich in anti-inflammatory omega-3s, or plant-based proteins like lentils and beans. For sandwiches, try grilled chicken or hummus instead of deli ham. Hidden food number 2, refined carbohydrates. The next food on our list is one you probably eat almost every day without realizing its hidden effects, refined carbohydrates. This includes white bread, white rice, pasta, pastries, cookies, and even many breakfast cereals. They may look harmless, but inside the body, they behave just like sugar. Here's why they are a major trigger of inflammation. Blood sugar spikes. Refined carbs break down quickly into glucose, flooding the bloodstream. For seniors, whose insulin response is weaker, this leads to unstable blood sugar and increased inflammation. Insulin resistance. Repeated spikes force the body to release more insulin, which eventually causes cells to stop responding properly, fueling diabetes and inflammation. Gut imbalance. Refined carbs lack fiber, which disrupts gut bacteria. An unhealthy gut microbiome is directly linked to systemic inflammation. Weight gain. These foods are calorie-dense but not filling, leading to overeating and belly fat, one of the strongest promoters of inflammation. Studies now show that diets high in refined carbs increase C-reactive protein, CRP, a key marker of inflammation in the body. For someone over 60, even small daily portions can push this marker higher, contributing to arthritis flare-ups and heart strain. Better alternative, swap refined carbs for whole grains like oats, brown rice, quinoa, or whole wheat bread. These provide fiber, steady energy release, and nutrients that keep inflammation under control. Hidden food number 3, vegetable oils, omega-6 overload. The third hidden food is one most seniors think of as healthy, vegetable oils. Canola oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, soybean oil, these are marketed as heart healthy. But here's the catch, they are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-6 fats aren't bad in themselves. The body needs them. But the problem is balance. The body requires a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats to stay healthy. Ideally, this should be around 2:1. In modern diets, especially with processed oils, that ratio shoots up to 20:1 or even 30:1. What happens when omega-6 levels dominate? They create inflammatory molecules called prostaglandins, which worsen joint pain, fuel arthritis, and increase heart disease risk. For seniors, the impact is even harsher because their bodies are already more prone to inflammation. Every spoonful of oil used in cooking tips the scale further toward imbalance. Better alternative, use anti-inflammatory oils like extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil in moderation. Even better, focus on whole food sources of fats, nuts like walnuts, seeds like flax or chia, and fatty fish rich in omega-3s. The sun was beginning its slow descent when the first sign of change swept across the savannah. The wildebeests lifted their heads, nostrils flaring at the distant scent of rain. It was faint, carried on the whisper of a wind that came from the south. But to the herd, it was enough. Instinct, older than memory, surged within them. It was time. Thousands of hooves struck the earth in restless rhythm. Dust lifted in the air, blurring the horizon in a golden haze. The wildebeests began to gather, mothers nudging their calves close, bulls circling to keep the herd together. A low hum of movement rippled through the grassland. Not far from them, herds of zebras stirred. They too knew the call of the migration. Side by side, striped and shaggy forms began to fall into motion, forming a living river of muscle and determination. Amara, the young lioness, lay hidden in the tall grass, her amber eyes tracking the rising tide of prey. Hunger gnawed at her belly, yet she did not move. To hunt too soon, to reveal herself now, would be foolish. The herd was restless, alert. She would wait until exhaustion set in, until panic fractured the unity of their march. Only then would she strike. Far above, circling vultures seemed to sense what was to come. Their wings carved lazy arcs in the sky, patient for the drama below to unfold. For every journey, they knew, left behind the fallen. The wildebeests pressed forward, following invisible pathways etched by generations before them. The ground trembled beneath their march. Calves stumbled but were lifted by their mothers' nudges. The air filled with the bleating of thousands, a symphony of survival. The journey was perilous. Across the plains, predators stirred from every shadow. Lions, cheetahs, hyenas, and wild dogs, all watched, all waited. The herd knew this dance, every step was both life and death. By nightfall, they reached the edge of the great Mara River. Its waters swelled with the recent rains, dark and swollen, currents twisting like restless serpents. The herd gathered along the bank, hooves clattering on stone. They hesitated. On the far side lay greener pastures, the promise of survival. But between them and that promise lurked danger far greater than hunger. The river was alive. Crocodiles, massive and ancient, drifted silently beneath the surface. Their scaled backs broke the water in brief glimpses before disappearing again. Yellow eyes watched with unblinking patience. For them, the migration was a feast beyond measure. The wildebeests pressed tighter at the edge, panic and instinct warring within them. The first calf stumbled forward, urged by the weight of the herd behind it. The river accepted it with a violent splash. And then, like a dam breaking, the herd surged. Hooves thundered as thousands plunged into the water. Waves rose, bodies collided, and the air filled with desperate cries. The river turned black with their mass, the surface churning with chaos. From the depths, crocodiles lunged. Their jaws snapped shut on flanks and legs, dragging the helpless beneath the current. Blood clouded the water, yet the herd pressed on, driven by an ancient command to move, to survive. On the far bank, the first wildebeests clawed their way to safety, collapsing on the mud, lungs heaving. More followed, stumbling forward, eyes wide with terror yet alive. For every one that fell, 10 more pushed on. And above it all, Amara watched. From her vantage point on a low ridge, she saw opportunity. The herd, broken and scattered, offered the weakness she had been waiting for. She slunk forward, muscles rippling under her golden coat. But she was not the only hunter. From the shadows, a rival pride emerged. Older lions, larger and stronger, had claimed this territory. Their roars split the evening air, deep and commanding. Amara froze, ears pressed back. To challenge them was death. She would have to wait, endure her hunger longer still. The savannah was a place of patience. Those who rushed, who acted without wisdom, became nothing more than bones in the dust. Amara turned away, her eyes still burning with determination. Her time would come. As night fell, the migration pressed onward. The herd stretched for miles, a river of life beneath the starlit sky. Hyenas followed at a distance, their eerie laughter rising like a chorus in the darkness. Jackals, too, prowled at the edges, snatching at the weak and the lost. And somewhere deep in the grass, Amara curled herself low, her hunger sharpening her resolve. The savannah had spoken, survival belonged to the patient, the strong, and the cunning. The migration had only just begun. The first light of dawn crept across the savannah, painting the sky in strokes of pale gold and crimson. The land was silent for a heartbeat, as though the entire wilderness was holding its breath. Then came the thunder, hooves pounding the earth as the migration surged forward once more. The wildebeests moved in restless waves, driven by the promise of fresh grazing lands. Dust rose around them in clouds, clinging to their coats, choking their lungs. Calves bleated desperately to keep pace, their mothers' eyes wide with fear. Yet none could stop. To fall behind was to invite death. Hidden in the tall grass, Amara crouched low. Her amber eyes burned with focus. Hunger had hollowed her flanks, sharpening every bone under her tawny coat. She had waited, watched as rival lions claimed the riverbank, as hyenas picked off the stragglers in the night. But now, with the herd stretched thin and scattered, opportunity rippled before her like a mirage. Her ears flicked at the sound of rustling to her left. Another shadow moved, sleek and fast. A cheetah, muscles taut, tail flicking for balance, was poised for its own strike. Amara growled low in her throat, a sound of warning. The cheetah froze, ears pressed back. It knew better than to challenge a lioness, even a lone one. With a flash of spotted fur, it melted back into the grass, leaving Amara her chance. Her eyes locked onto a calf, stumbling at the edge of the herd. Its legs wobbled with exhaustion, its mother pushing it forward with frantic nudges. Amara's muscles coiled, her body pressed flat against the earth. The air around her vibrated with tension, as though the savannah itself knew what was about to unfold. Then she sprang. Her body shot from the grass with explosive power, a blur of golden fury. The wildebeests screamed, scattering in panic. Dust erupted into the air as hooves struck the ground in a frenzy. The calf bolted, its mother wheeling to protect it, but Amara was faster. She lunged, claws unsheathing, her roar ripping through the morning silence. The mother turned, horns lowered, charging at the predator. Amara twisted mid-air, narrowly avoiding the sharp points that could have gored her belly. She landed hard, dust rising around her, but she did not falter. Her eyes burned with hunger, her breath ragged with need. She circled the pair, feinting left, then right. The mother bellowed, stamping the ground, desperate to defend her young. The calf stumbled again, legs trembling. That hesitation was all Amara needed. With a second leap, she closed the distance. Her claws sank deep into the calf's flank, pulling it down with brutal force. The ground shook with the impact, the calf's cries piercing the air. The mother lunged again, but Amara sank her jaws into the calf's throat, ending its struggle in a heartbeat. Blood stained the golden grass, the scent sharp and metallic in the morning air. The mother hovered, torn between fight and flight. With a final mournful call, she turned and fled, vanishing into the herd. Amara stood over her kill, chest heaving, eyes blazing. Victory surged through her veins, sweet and intoxicating. But in the savannah, a kill was never truly hers until it was eaten. From the shadows, hyenas emerged. Their laughter rose in chilling chorus, echoing across the plains. 3, then 5, then 7 of them, their mottled coats blending with the dust. Their eyes glowed with greed, their jaws snapping in anticipation. Amara growled, her tail lashing the air. She stood over the calf's body, muscles rigid, fangs bared. The hyenas fanned out, circling her, their laughter growing louder. Alone, she could not fight them all. Yet to yield so quickly would be to starve. One hyena lunged, snapping at the carcass. Amara swiped with her paw, claws raking across its muzzle. It yelped and fell back, blood dripping from its face. The others snarled, emboldened by their numbers. They rushed forward as one. Amara roared, the sound thunderous, a defiance that made even the herd pause in their flight. She slashed and bit, her fury holding them at bay. But every moment, they pressed closer, nipping at her flanks, darting in and out like shadows. She fought with all the strength of her kind, but hunger and solitude were against her. With a final, enraged roar, she tore a strip of flesh from the calf and bolted, dragging it into the tall grass. The hyenas swarmed the rest of the carcass, their laughter victorious, their jaws cracking bones with sickening ease. Amara crouched low, her prize small but enough to keep her alive. She tore into it with savage hunger, her jaws working furiously. The meat was warm, the blood rich on her tongue. It was not the feast she had hoped for, but it was survival. Above, vultures circled, waiting for the hyenas to finish. The air was thick with the stench of death, yet the savanna pulsed with life. For every loss, there was gain. For every death, survival. As the sun climbed higher, the migration pressed on, the herd flowing like a living river toward the horizon. Dust and echoes trailed in their wake. Amara licked her blood-stained muzzle, her amber eyes fixed on the distance. The hunt had fed her for today, but the journey was not over. The savanna gave, but it also demanded. And tomorrow, she would need to kill again. The midday sun blazed overhead, turning the savanna into a shimmering sea of gold. Heat waves rippled above the tall grasses, and the air was thick with the mingled scents of dust, sweat, and blood. For the migrating herds, this was both a land of promise and a gauntlet of death. Wildebeests pressed onward in their thousands, their hooves drumming against the cracked earth. Zebras trotted beside them, their striped coats flashing like ripples in the sunlight. Every movement was measured, every step urgent. Hunger pushed them forward, yet danger haunted their every breath. Not far behind, scavengers traced their path like shadows. Hyenas with full bellies trailed lazily, their laughter now quiet, replaced with satisfied grunts. Vultures circled higher, waiting for the inevitable, the weak who would fall, the calves who would stumble, the old who could not go on. In the savanna, nothing was wasted. Amara lay in the shade of a lone acacia tree, her flanks rising and falling with exhaustion. The strip of flesh she had claimed from her kill had given her strength, but not enough. Around her, flies buzzed lazily, drawn to the blood still caked on her muzzle. She licked her paws clean, her amber eyes watching the endless flow of prey in the distance. She was not alone. A movement in the grass caught her attention. Another lion emerged, this one larger, his mane thick and dark. His golden eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment the world seemed to still. He was not from her pride, Amara had none. He was a nomad, wandering the vast plains alone. His ribs showed through his skin, yet power radiated from every muscle. He padded closer, not with aggression, but with the slow, deliberate confidence of one who knew his place in the cycle. Amara growled low, a warning. But the lion only sat a few paces away, his gaze shifting toward the herd. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant rumble of hooves. Two predators, both hungry, both bound by the same laws of survival. Finally, he rose, giving her a long look before turning away. He did not challenge her, nor offer alliance. In the savanna, partnerships were rare and fleeting. Life was too harsh for trust. Amara watched him go, her heart heavy with a loneliness she did not allow herself to feel. As the day wore on, the migration reached a narrow gorge, where the earth sloped steeply and the path was hemmed in by jagged rocks. It was here that the predators gathered, knowing the herd would be forced into vulnerability. Cheetahs crouched on the ridges, their slender bodies trembling with anticipation. Hyenas lurked in the shadows, their yellow eyes gleaming. And high above, eagles wheeled, their sharp cries cutting through the hot air. The herd funneled into the gorge, the walls echoing with their calls. Dust rose in choking clouds, hooves slipping on loose stone. A calf stumbled, its tiny legs giving way beneath the press of bodies. Its mother cried out, nudging frantically, but the herd pushed past, urgency overpowering compassion. In an instant, the calf was alone. And the hyenas moved. They rushed forward with terrifying precision, their laughter breaking the stillness like a cruel song. The calf bleated, struggling to rise, but the predators were faster. Their jaws closed on its legs, dragging it down into the dust. The cries ended quickly, swallowed by the sound of tearing flesh. The mother turned once, her eyes wide with grief, before vanishing into the crowd. She had no choice. The savannah did not wait for morning. Amara watched from the ridge, her heart tightening. She had killed calves before, she knew the necessity of it. But watching the hyenas feast, watching the herd abandon one of its own, she was reminded of the cruel balance of the world. Life here was a circle of endless exchange. The grass fed the wildebeests. The wildebeests fed the lions. The lions fed the hyenas and vultures. And when the lions themselves fell, their bones nourished the soil, and the grass grew again. Nothing ended. Nothing was wasted. As the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the gorge in shades of orange and crimson, the herd finally broke free onto the open plains beyond. Exhaustion marked their steps, but hope lingered too. Ahead lay greener pastures, rivers filled with fresh water, and a chance for survival. Amara rose, stretching her tired muscles. Her gaze followed the herd, but her thoughts lingered on the balance she had witnessed. Here in the savannah, there was no good, no evil, only life and death, survival and hunger. Her stomach growled softly. She would hunt again soon. She would take her share, as all creatures must. But for now, she stood still, a solitary figure against the burning horizon, a lioness bound to the eternal rhythm of the wild. The migration rolled onward, and with it, the story of the savannah continued.